reflection. Life has a way of teaching us who we really are and who we're not meant to be with. Have you ever met someone who looked charming on the outside, smooth words, flexion, perfect smile, but deep down something was off? And then there's this woman, a God-fearing woman, rooted in faith, grounded in truth, walking in light. Reflection. She doesn't just see what you show, she sees what you hide. And let me tell you, when a narcissist meets a God-fearing woman, something powerful happens. Here's the thing, flexion. The narcissist thrives on control, thrives on manipulation, thrives on people who don't know their worth. But this woman, she knows exactly who she is and knew how she is. Flexion. And suddenly his power doesn't work anymore because her boundaries, unshakable. Her peace, untouchable. Her discernment, unmatched. I'm looking at some of you right now, reflection, and I see your head nodding because you've been there. Maybe you are there. So let me ask you, have you ever recognized your worth so deeply that toxic people just couldn't stay? Today, flexion, I want you to remember this: a God-fearing woman doesn't fight back with chaos. She responds with clarity. She doesn't shrink to fit his narrative. She rises to meet her calling. Reflection. And in that moment, she's free. And maybe, just maybe, you're ready to be free too. Something powerful happens when two completely different energies collide. Reflection, I'm talking about a narcissist and a God-fearing woman. These are two people who live in two completely different worlds. One thrives on control, on ego, reflection, on this endless need to be seen as superior, while the other, she is grounded in grace and humility in something bigger than herself. Flexion. She doesn't walk into a room needing approval. She walks in knowing she already carries favor. Now, let me tell you something about that collision. A narcissist is used to people bending, reflection, shifting, molding themselves to fit into his world. He expects to be the sun and for everyone else to just orbit around him. You've seen it, haven't you? Flexion. Maybe you've experienced it firsthand. That magnetic charm, that pull that at first feels flattering. But behind it, there's always a hook. Flexion. There's always a moment where you start to feel small, questioning yourself, compromising just a little more than you wanted to. But then there's Hayar, this God-fearing woman. Reflection. She doesn't play by those rules because her sense of worth doesn't come from him or from any man for that matter. It comes from God. Her values, her boundaries, flexion, her identity are not up for negotiation. And this shakes him to his core because suddenly his favorite weapon, control, doesn't work here. Reflection, let me ask you, how many of you have ever been in a situation where someone's approval felt like a prize? Like if you could just keep them happy, then you'd feel enough. Reflection, a pause for audience reaction. Yeah, I see you. But when you know your worth, when you know your source, you stop playing that game. Reflection. And that's what makes a God-fearing woman so powerful in the face of a narcissist. She's not easily swayed by sweet talk, manipulation, or guilt trips. Reflection. And you can almost feel it in the air when they meet. He comes in with all that charm, all that performance, expecting her to be dazzled. But she's listening with a different kind of ear. Reflection. She's discerning. She's looking past what he's saying and into what he's showing. She's noticing the subtle put-downs, the way he centers himself in every conversation. Reflection. The way he avoids accountability. And instead of bending to it, she stands firm in her truth. That throws him off balance. Because here's the thing, flexion. Narcissists thrive on supply. They need someone to give them constant validation, constant reassurance, constant applause. But a woman rooted in faith, reflection, she's not in the business of feeding egos. She's in the business of walking in purpose, doesn't bow to ego. It creates this moment, this tension. Reflection, he can't figure out why his usual tricks aren't working. He might even double down, get more charming or more critical just to test her limits. But because her foundation is strong, reflection, because she knows who she is, she doesn't lose herself in the storm. I want you to imagine this. Imagine yourself standing in a storm, wind whipping around you, rain pouring down, reflection. But your feet are planted on solid rock. That's what it's like for her. The chaos may swirl, but she's not moved. Flexion. That kind of strength frustrates a narcissist because it confronts everything they rely on. And maybe as you're listening to this, you're thinking, reflection, that sounds like me, or at least the woman I want to be. Well, let me say this, you don't have to shrink for anyone. You don't have to trade your peace for temporary approval. Reflection, somebody needs to write this down. I am not here to orbit someone else's ego. I am here to stand in my own purpose. And turn to the person next to you, yes, right now, and tell them, reflection, I'm not shrinking anymore. A pause for audience response, say it again so your soul hears it. I'm not shrinking anymore. Because when a narcissist meets a God-fearing woman, reflection, it's not just two people meeting. It's control meeting confidence. It's manipulation meeting discernment. It's fear meeting faith. And I promise you, reflection. Fear never wins in the presence of faith. And here's the truth. It's not about hating him. It's not about revenge. It's not about proving anything. Reflection. It's about knowing that your value doesn't depend on someone else's ability to recognize it. She knows her worth, and that shifts the entire dynamic. Reflection. So if you've ever felt like someone has tried to diminish you, control you, or define you, take this moment as your reminder. You are allowed to stand firm. Reflection. You are allowed to hold your boundaries. And yes, you are allowed to walk away. Faith is a powerful thing. It's not just about what you believe on Sunday morning. Reflection. It's about what you stand on when the ground under you starts to shake. And when we talk about a God-fearing woman meeting a narcissist, what really shifts the balance is her faith. Reflection. That faith becomes her armor. See, a narcissist loves to poke at your insecurities. They look for cracks in your confidence, places where you might question yourself. Reflection. They thrive in that space where you're uncertain, where you're searching for validation. But a woman who carries faith, oh, she's standing on something bigger than herself. Reflection. She knows where her identity comes from, and it's not from someone's fleeting opinion. When her faith is intact, manipulation has nowhere to land. Think about that for a second. Reflection. When someone tries to tear you down, when they throw those subtle jabs, when they play those mind games, they're looking for a reaction. They're looking for that opening. Reflection, that moment where you start to bend to their will. But when your faith says, I know who I am and I know whose I am, there's no crack to exploit. That armor, it's sealed tight. Reflection, let me ask you something. How many of you have ever had someone try to make you feel small, but your belief in something greater held you steady? Pause for audience response. Yes, I see you. Reflection, that's the power of faith. It doesn't make life perfect, but it makes why you unshakable. Now understand this, faith doesn't mean you won't feel pain. Reflection, that you won't have moments of doubt or tears, but it means you have a source to go to when the storm hits. You have a place to refill your strength, to remind you of your value. Reflection, and that's what terrifies a narcissist, because they depend on people being empty so they can fill them with whatever they want. Approval one moment, criticism the next, control all the time. Reflection, but when you're already filled, you don't need their approval to breathe. There's something beautiful about watching a woman stand in her faith when someone's trying to shake her. Reflection, you see it in her posture, in her eyes, in the way she doesn't rush to defend herself against every accusation. She doesn't need to scream. She doesn't need to argue endlessly. Reflection, because her validation isn't in that argument. It's rooted in her connection to God. Imagine this, he comes in with all his usual tactics, gas lighting, blame, shifting, reflection, trying to make her question what she knows is true. But she's prayed up, she's grounded, she's anchored. That's faith as armor. It's like when arrows are flying, reflection, but you've got a shield so strong they just bounce off. And every time one hits, instead of wounding her, it only confirms what she already knows. She's covered. Reflection, you might be sitting here today thinking, I wish I had that kind of faith. Let me tell you, it's not about being perfect or knowing all the right words. Reflection, it's about trusting that you are worthy of love, peace, and respect, not because someone else says so, but because your Creator already stamped you with worth. Reflection, and when you live from that place, you stop accepting behavior that chips away at your soul. Reflection, take a moment, write this down if you can. I mean, worth isn't negotiable because it was never given by man in the first place. Say that out loud with me. Reflection, my worth isn't negotiable. To pause for audience to repeat feels good, doesn't it? Because when that truth sinks in, those who come to manipulate, to take reflection, to diminish, they have no place to land. Turn to someone next to you and tell them, I am already enough. Pause for audience. Yeah, look them in the eye. Tell them like you believe it. Reflection. Because here's the thing, faith changes how you carry yourself, and how you carry yourself changes what you tolerate. A God-fearing woman isn't cold. She isn't closed off. Reflection. But she is covered. And that covering keeps her from falling for counterfeit love. I want you to hold on to this today. Faith isn't just something you talk about. It's something you walk in. Reflection. And when you walk in it, you stop entertaining people who only show up to drain you. Faith becomes your yes and your no. It becomes your protection, your guidance, your strength. Reflection. And it lets you see clearly when someone isn't for you. Discernment. That's what changes everything. It's not just about seeing what's right in front of you. Reflection. It's about seeing what's really there. And when a narcissist meets a God-fearing woman, he expects to impress her with charm, with smooth words. Reflection. With the kind of confidence that dazzles people. But she's listening with a different kind of ear, and she's looking with a different kind of eye. She has discernment, reflection, and that discernment comes from experience, from faith, and from a willingness to trust that inner voice. You know that inner voice I'm talking about, the one that whispers reflection. Something's not right here. The one we sometimes ignore because we don't want to seem judgmental or we don't want to lose what looks so good on the outside. But a God-fearing woman, reflection, she's tuned into that voice. She knows that just because something looks good doesn't mean it is good. Let me tell you, discernment will save your life. Reflection, it'll save you from giving years to someone who never had your best interest at heart. It'll save you from mistaking attention for affection or flattery for love. Reflection, how many of you have ever looked back and thought, I saw the signs, but I ignored them? Pause for audience response. Yeah, I see those hands. We've all been there. Reflection. Here's the thing about narcissists. They are experts at wearing masks. They know how to say what you want to hear, how to play the victim when it benefits them. Reflection. How to turn everything around so you question your own reality. But when you have discernment, you see beyond the mask. You catch the inconsistencies. Reflection. The moments when their words and their actions don't line up. You notice how they treat people when nobody's watching, how they respond when they don't get their way. Reflection, how quick they are to dismiss your feelings. And because you see it, you don't fall for it. That's the gift of discernment. It's like spiritual night vision. Other people might say, reflection, but he's so charming, or he seems so successful, and you're over here saying something doesn't feel right. That's not paranoia, that's wisdom. Sometimes reflection, having discernment means you have to walk away when everything in your flesh wants to stay. Because charm feels good, attention feels good, being chosen feels good, but peace feels better. Reflection, stability feels better, respect feels better, and discernment is what gives you the courage to say, I don't just want what looks good. Reflection, I want what is good. Take a moment and write this down. I will not let flattery blind me from truth. Say it with me. Reflection, I will not let flattery blind me from truth. Does pause for audience to repeat, because flattery will have you ignoring red flags, but truth will set you free. Reflection, turn to the person next to you right now and tell them, reflection, your intuition is a gift, don't ignore it. A pause for audience response, somebody in this room needed to hear that because you've been second guessing yourself. Reflection, thinking you're overreacting, thinking maybe you're being too picky. But let me tell you, discernment isn't pickiness, it's protection. A narcissist expects you to be dazzled. Reflection, to be swept away, to be so caught up in how he looks, how he talks, how he carries himself, that you don't notice what's happening underneath. But discernment allows you to say, no. Reflection, I see you. I see the way you twist stories, the way you avoid accountability, the way you need constant praise but give none in return. And because you see it, you don't become it. Sometimes, reflection, discernment won't just protect you from people, it'll protect you from patterns. Maybe you grew up seeing unhealthy relationships. Maybe you've dated the same type of person over and over. Reflection. But when discernment kicks in, you start to see, wait, this feels familiar and not in a good way. And once you see it, you can break it. Reflection. How many of you know that seeing clearly is the first step to living freely? Reflection. Pause for audience response. That's why I love talking about discernment. It's one of the most powerful gifts you can develop. And the more you use it, the stronger it gets. So, reflection. When a narcissist meets a God-fearing woman, he's meeting someone who isn't just looking at the surface. She's listening for truth. She's watching for patterns. Reflection. She's trusting her spirit. And because of that, his manipulation doesn't stick. His mask doesn't fool her. She knows what peace feels like, and she knows when someone threatens it. Reflection. And once you know that, you don't settle anymore. You don't entertain confusion. You don't keep giving second chances to behavior that doesn't change. Discernment lets you say, reflection, I see you for who you are, and I choose peace over pretense. Boundaries, we have to talk about boundaries, because when a narcissist meets a God-fearing woman, reflection, one of the first things he realizes is that she's got lines he cannot cross. And that right there changes everything. See, a narcissist is used to people bending, compromising, reflection, giving in just to keep the peace. He expects you to sacrifice your comfort, your needs, even your dignity, just to keep him happy. And for a lot of people, reflection, that works because they don't want conflict, they don't want drama, they just want things to feel okay. But a God-fearing woman, she knows her value. And because she knows her value, reflection, she has boundaries, and those boundaries are unshakable. Let me tell you something powerful. Boundaries are not walls to keep people out. They are doors that you control. You decide who walks in. Reflection, how far they can go, and when it's time for them to leave. That's what healthy boundaries look like. And when a narcissist comes face to face with that kind of strength, flexion, he doesn't know what to do with it. He might push it first. He might test her limits, flexion. See if he can manipulate her into loosening those boundaries, because manipulation thrives where there is no clarity. But she has clarity. She knows what's acceptable and what's not. Flexion. She knows what respect looks like, and she's not willing to compromise it for anyone. Flexion. How many of you know what it feels like to let someone push past your limits because you were afraid to lose them? Pause for audience response. Yeah, I see those hands. But let me tell you, reflection. When you stop betraying yourself just to keep someone else comfortable, that's when real peace begins. Reflection, and I want somebody to write this down. Boundaries are a reflection of my worth. Say that out loud with me. Flexion. My boundaries are a reflection of my worth. The pause for audience to repeat, because that's the truth. People who don't respect your boundaries don't respect you. Reflection. And the moment you enforce those boundaries, that's when you find out who's really for you and who's just there to use you. Flexion. A narcissist hates boundaries because boundaries mean accountability. They mean consequences. They mean he can't just do what he wants when he wants. And for someone who thrives on control, reflection, that is frustrating. But here's the beautiful part. When your boundaries are rooted in faith, you don't waver. You're not setting them out of fear, reflection. You're setting them out of love for yourself, for your peace, for your purpose. And let's be honest, holding boundaries isn't always easy. Reflection. It might mean walking away from people you thought would be in your life forever. It might mean uncomfortable conversations where you finally say, no. Reflection. This doesn't work for me. But let me tell you, every time you choose peace over chaos, you're teaching people how to treat you. I want you to turn to someone right now. Yes, reflection, go ahead and tell them, reflection, your peace is worth protecting. Live pause for audience response. Somebody needed to hear that because you've been living in a way where your boundaries keep getting crossed. Reflection. And you've been calling it love, but it's really just fear of letting go. Here's what I know. When you respect yourself enough to set boundaries, you attract people who respect you too. Reflection. And the ones who don't, they'll either adjust or they'll leave. Either way, you win because your peace stays intact. Imagine that narcissist coming in, expecting to control the narrative. Reflection. To take up all the space, to move the line whenever it suits him, and then realizing this woman isn't bending. She's kind, she's compassionate, she's loving, but she's firm. Reflection. She's not here to be controlled. She's not here to play games. She's not here to sacrifice her purpose just to keep his ego fed. That kind of strength is liberating, not just for her, reflection, but for anyone watching her live it. Because when one woman stands strong in her boundaries, it gives other women permission to do the same. Reflection. It sends a message. You can love people and still say no. You can forgive people and still move on. Flexion. You can have compassion and still have clarity. Write this down. Boundaries are not rejection. Flexion. They are direction. And that direction is what keeps you walking toward peace instead of chaos, purpose instead of pain. So when a narcissist meets a God-fearing woman, flexion. He meets boundaries that cannot be broken, and that changes the game. There's something powerful that happens when you stop feeding what's draining you. Reflection. And that's exactly what a God-fearing woman does when she encounters a narcissist. She refuses to be his supply. Now let's talk about that, reflection, because a narcissist thrives on something called supply. That means your energy, your attention, your validation, your praise, it's like oxygen to him. The more you give, flexion, the more powerful he feels. He wants you applauding every move, agreeing with every word, bending to every mood swing. And when you don't, that shakes him. Reflection. A narcissist is used to people who need him, people who crave his approval so much that they'll tolerate anything just to keep him happy. But this God-fearing woman, she's different. Flexion. Her worth isn't wrapped up in his approval. Her joy doesn't depend on whether he's smiling or sulking. She doesn't let him pull the strings. Reflection. Because she knows her validation doesn't come from him. It comes from God. Let me ask you something. How many of you have ever felt like you were constantly trying to keep someone happy? Reflection, giving everything you had, only to feel empty in return. I'll pause for audience response. Yeah, I see you. That's what happens when someone becomes your source instead of your choice. Reflection, when you feel like you have to keep them satisfied to keep your peace, you lose yourself. But when you know your source, when you know your worth, you stop playing that game. Reflection, you stop over giving just to avoid someone else's anger. You stop shrinking just to make someone else comfortable. And for a narcissist, that's devastating. Reflection, because his power is built on your response. If you don't feed his ego, if you don't let him control your emotions, he loses control altogether. Flexion, and it's not because she's cold or unkind, it's because she's centered. She's grounded. She knows that her time, her energy, her spirit are sacred. Reflection. And she doesn't just hand them out to people who drain her. She's not there to be a power source for someone else's insecurity. Flexion. Take a second and write this down. I am not your fuel. Say it out loud with me. I am not your fuel. Pause for audience to repeat. Somebody just got free right there. Reflection. Because you've been thinking it's your job to keep everyone around you happy, even if it means you're exhausted. But you can't be the power source for someone else's emptiness. Reflection. Turn to the person next to you and tell them, you don't have to keep pouring into people who keep you empty. Live pause for audience response, that one right there. Somebody felt that deep reflection because you've been running on fumes and it's time to stop. Here's the truth. A narcissist will often double down when you stop giving. He'll test you, push harder, maybe even lash out. Reflection, because he's used to being fed. But when you hold steady, when you don't give him what he's demanding, whether it's attention, anger, or endless validation, you take back your power. Flexion, you stop being his supply. And without supply, he loses the control he thought he had. And I want to say this isn't about becoming bitter or cold. It's about becoming wise. Reflection, it's about understanding that your energy is valuable, that every yes you give costs you something. Reflection, that every moment you spend chasing approval is a moment you could be spending building your purpose, your peace, your joy. A God-fearing woman knows that love doesn't mean being controlled. Reflection, compassion doesn't mean being consumed. She knows the difference between serving people and being used by people. And because she knows, she chooses differently. Reflection, somebody in this room needs to hear me. You don't have to keep proving your worth to someone who doesn't see it. Reflection, you don't have to keep fighting for a seat at a table where your presence is only valued when you're clapping for someone else. You don't have to keep shrinking so someone else can feel big. Flexion, write this down. I choose peace over performance. Say it with me. I choose peace over performance. Lay pause for audience to repeat, because at the end of the day, flexion, you don't owe anyone constant applause to be worthy of love. So when a narcissist meets a God-fearing woman and realizes he's not her source of approval, not her emotional battery, reflection, not her fuel, his power fades, and she stays free. Chaos, that's the narcissist's favorite playground. He thrives on confusion, on keeping you off balance. Reflection, on making sure you never feel quite secure. Because if you're spinning, if you're always trying to figure out what just happened, you're easier to control. Reflection, that's the game. Keep you guessing so you can't set boundaries. Keep you doubting so you can't stand firm. But a God-fearing woman, oh, she's different. Flexion, she doesn't match chaos with chaos. She brings clarity, she brings calm, she brings that steady, grounded energy that says, flexion, I'm not going to lose myself just because you lost yourself. You see, a narcissist will push buttons to get a reaction. He'll twist words, raise his voice. Reflection, sometimes even go silent just to punish you emotionally. And what does the average person do? They react. They try harder to fix it, to smooth things over. Reflection, to get things back to normal. But a woman who knows who she is and who she is, she doesn't play that game. She's not going to match his storm with another storm. Reflection, because she knows the cost of peace and she's not willing to give it up. Reflection, let me ask you, how many of you have ever found yourself in a situation where you felt like you were walking on eggshells, trying not to trigger someone? Pause for audience response. Yeah. Flexion, I see you. You were carrying all the weight, trying to keep everything calm, but deep down you were losing yourself. That's what chaos does. It makes you small. But clarity, reflection. Clarity makes you strong. Clarity says, I see what you're doing, and I'm not engaging in it. It's the power to stay calm when someone's trying to bait you into a fight. Reflection. It's choosing silence over screaming, wisdom over reacting, prayer over panic. And let me tell you, when someone expects you to spiral and you don't, it shakes them. Reflection. A narcissist loves control, and one of the fastest ways to control someone is to control their emotions. But when you refuse to let your emotions be manipulated, you take back your power. Reflection. And here's what's beautiful. When you live in clarity, people who thrive on chaos can't stand it for long. They either have to adjust or they have to leave. Reflection. I want you to write this down. My peace is my power. Say it with me. My peace is my power. And I'll pause for audience to repeat, because that's the truth. When you protect your peace, reflection, you're not being selfish. You're being wise. You're saying, I love myself enough not to live in emotional turmoil. Turn to somebody near you and tell them, reflection, I'm choosing clarity over chaos. Lay pause for audience response. Somebody just claimed their freedom with that one. Here's the thing about clarity. It's not loud. Reflection. It doesn't argue for hours. It doesn't slam doors. It doesn't try to convince people to act right. Clarity is steady. It knows what it will accept and what it won't. Reflection. And it doesn't need to shout about it. It just lives it. And because of that, a narcissist loses one of his greatest tools: confusion. Reflection. And I want to say this to somebody. Just because someone is loud doesn't mean they're right. Just because someone is passionate doesn't mean they're truthful. Reflection. Sometimes the one who's quiet, the one who refuses to join the chaos, is the one walking in the most power. That's why clarity is such a game changer. Reflection. It gives you permission to walk away from arguments that don't lead anywhere, to disengage from manipulation, to stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. Reflection. Write this down. I don't have to attend every argument I'm invited to. Say it out loud. Reflection. I don't have to attend every argument I'm invited to. Pause for audience to repeat that. Right there is freedom. When a narcissist meets a God-fearing woman, reflection. He expects her to fight like he fights, to get emotional when he gets emotional, to lose her grounding when he's trying to shake it. But instead, she chooses clarity. She says, no, reflection. I'm not going there. I won't let your storm become my storm. And in that moment, she wins, not because she fought harder, but because she refused to fight at all. Reflection. And that's what I want you to remember. Chaos loses its power when you stop feeding it. And clarity will set you free every single time. Healing and freedom. Reflection. That's the part most people overlook when they talk about walking away from someone toxic. Because leaving is one thing, but healing, that's where the real work begins. Reflection. And when a God-fearing woman decides she's done with narcissistic control, she's not just walking away from a person. She's walking toward her healing, toward her freedom. Reflection. Toward her future. See, narcissistic relationships don't just break your heart. They can chip away at your identity. They make you question your value, your judgment, your strength. Reflection. And some people, even after leaving, carry that pain like baggage for years. But a woman rooted in faith knows something powerful. Her past is not her prison. Let me ask you this. How many of you have ever looked back on a relationship and realized you weren't even yourself anymore? A pause for audience response. Yeah, I see you. You laughed less. Reflection. You doubted more. You made yourself small just to keep the peace. That's what being with someone controlling can do. It changes how you see yourself. But here's where healing comes in. Reflection. Healing says, I am reclaiming every piece of me I gave away. Healing says, I will not let pain define me. I will let it refine me. And freedom. Freedom is the result of that healing. Reflection. Freedom is when you stop replaying every argument in your head. Freedom is when you stop defining your worth by who stayed or who left. Freedom is when you breathe deeply and realize, reflection, I'm okay. Actually, I'm better than okay, I'm me again. A narcissist expects you to stay broken, to stay stuck, because broken people are easier to control. But when you heal, reflection, when you rise, when you say, that may have hurt me, but it didn't end me, you take back every bit of power you thought you lost. And that kind of healing, it's contagious. Reflection, it inspires other people to heal too. Write this down. Me healing is my resistance. Say it out loud with me. Reflection, my healing is my resistance. A pause for audience to repeat, because every time you choose to heal instead of hate, to grow instead of stay bitter, reflection, you're refusing to let someone else's brokenness break you. Turn to the person next to you and tell them, reflection, your healing is worth the work. Or pause for audience response, because let's be honest, healing takes work. It takes facing your pain, forgiving yourself, reflection, sometimes even forgiving them, not for their sake, but for yours. Because holding on to bitterness doesn't punish them, it punishes you. And freedom, reflection, freedom is the beautiful result of all that hard work. Freedom is waking up one day and realizing that you don't need their apology to move forward. Reflection, freedom is realizing that peace isn't something they give you. It's something you choose. Freedom is finally living your life without looking over your shoulder. Reflection, without waiting for the next emotional storm. I need somebody to hear this. You are allowed to be free. You are allowed to laugh again, to dream again, to trust yourself again. Reflection, because healing and freedom aren't just about letting go of the pain. They're about making room for joy. Think about it like this. Reflection, when you've been carrying a heavy bag for miles and finally put it down, you feel lighter, you stand taller, you breathe deeper. That's what healing feels like. Reflection. And the moment you experience that, you wonder why you carried it so long in the first place. Somebody write this down. My healing is not optional, it's essential. Say it out loud. My healing is not optional, it's essential. So pause for audience to repeat, because when you heal, you break cycles. You stop repeating patterns. Reflection. You stop attracting what hurt you because you're finally whole enough to demand better. reflection. And this is what a narcissist never expects, that the very person they tried to break will be the one who rises, who heals, who walks away free. Flexion. That's why when a narcissist meets a God-fearing woman and she chooses healing, she doesn't just leave him, she leaves that entire chapter of pain behind. She chooses herself, her peace, reflection, her future empowerment. That's what all of this comes down to. Because when a God-fearing woman meets a narcissist and stands her ground, when she holds her boundaries, protects her peace, reflection, chooses healing and freedom, she's stepping into her power. And I'm not talking about power in the sense of controlling others. I'm talking about the power to live fully, freely, reflection, and unapologetically as the woman she was created to be. A narcissist's greatest hope is that you never realize how powerful you are without him, that you never discover your voice, reflection, your strength, your purpose. But empowerment changes everything. It shifts you from surviving to thriving, from questioning to knowing, from shrinking to standing tall. Reflection. And empowerment is contagious. When one woman chooses to step into her power, it gives permission to every woman watching her to do the same. Reflection. That's why this message is so important, because somebody is watching you right now, silently hoping for the courage to do what you've already done or are about to do. Reflection. Let me ask you something. How many of you know that the moment you found your voice, everything changed? Pause for audience response. Yeah, I see those hands. Reflection. Because once you start speaking truth over your life, once you stop begging for love and start being loved, the whole atmosphere around you shifts. Reflection, write this down. I am allowed to be powerful and peaceful at the same time. Say it with me. Reflection. I am allowed to be powerful and peaceful at the same time. So pause for audience to repeat, because too often women are told to choose. To be kind but quiet, or powerful but cold. Reflection. But you don't have to choose. You can be both. You can be soft and strong, gentle and bold, loving and firm. Turn to the person next to you and tell them, reflection. Your power is your gift. Use it. Pause for audience response, because when you use your power well, you don't just protect yourself. You light a path for others. Reflection. And I want you to hear this. Empowerment doesn't mean you never feel fear. It doesn't mean you never have moments of doubt. It means you move forward anyway. Flexion. It means you say yes to yourself and no to what diminishes you. It means you stop waiting for permission to be great. Somebody needs to hear me. Reflection. You don't need closure from the one who hurt you to step into your power. You don't need their approval to walk into your purpose. You don't need their apology to claim your joy. Reflection. You already have everything you need inside you. Empowerment says, I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become after it. Empowerment says, reflection. I am no longer playing small because someone else can't handle my light. Empowerment says, I am free. Reflection. And I'm not going back. And when a narcissist meets a God-fearing woman who has stepped into her power, it becomes clear his control can't hold her. His manipulation can't sway her. Reflection. His words can't define her, because she knows who she is. And she knows who she is. And that kind of woman, she can't be broken. Flexion, because she's already built herself back up stronger than before. Write this down. My life is mine to live, and I will live it fully. Say it loud. My life is mine to live. Reflection. And I will live it fully. Pause for audience to repeat now. I want you to take a deep breath right here, right now. And imagine yourself stepping out of every toxic pattern, flexion, out of every broken relationship, out of every limiting belief. Step into the version of you that is whole, healed, and powerful. Because she's in there. Flexion. She's been waiting for you to claim her. And I want you to turn to someone and tell them, you are enough, you are powerful. Flexion, you are free. So pause for audience response, because sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone else is a word of affirmation they can carry with them long after this moment is over. Flexion. So yes, when a narcissist meets a God-fearing woman, it's a collision of two worlds. But what matters most is what she chooses. And when she chooses empowerment, reflection, she doesn't just walk away. She rises up. She doesn't just survive. She thrives. And that changes everything. So here's what I want you to leave with tonight. Reflection. You are not defined by who hurt you, by who tried to control you, or by who couldn't see your worth. You are defined by who you choose to be now, in this moment, with this life that is yours. Reflection. When a narcissist meets a God-fearing woman, it's more than a meeting. It's a revelation. It's control meeting boundaries, manipulation meeting discernment, chaos meeting clarity, reflection, pain meeting healing, and fear meeting faith. And every single time, faith wins. And tonight, I want you to make a choice to step fully into your worth, your power, your purpose. Flexion, because you don't owe anyone your peace. You don't owe anyone your silence, and you don't owe anyone your smallness. What you owe is to yourself, to live free, to live whole, flexion, and to live bold. Write this down. I am worth protecting. I am worth loving. I am worth choosing by me. Say it with me one last time. I am worth protecting. I am worth loving. Reflection. I am worth choosing by me. So pause for audience to repeat. Turn to somebody right now. Look them in the eyes and tell them you are enough. You are powerful. Reflection. And you are free. Pause for audience response because that's the truth. You are enough. You are powerful and you are free. And that, my friends, is how you rise.